Oh, fuck. I hung up on him.
Oh. I think you keep hanging up on me when you like...
It's just not fitting right. How am I supposed to do this?
You're like stroking your earbuds until it hangs up.
Wait, I don't even know what is it. What is the form of touch that makes you hang up? Is it like a swipe?
Is it the pinch? Did you do the pinch?
No.
Oh, that's it. That's the one.
But on the whole, I've been a saint to those poor unfortunate souls.
Hello, and welcome to Poor Unfortunate Podcast. I'm Connor Perkins.
And I'm Caroline A. Betty.
Welcome to any new listeners. It's great having you here with us. Thank you so much for hitting play. Please also remember to hit follow and subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast. That way all of our episodes download to your device. You don't miss out on anything. And for all of our returning listeners, thank you so much for coming back. We hope you're enjoying this non-Disney cycle. If you haven't hit follow or subscribe, this is the time to do it. And then everybody, we're going to all do this at the end. We're going to hit 5 stars and we're going to leave a written review wherever we listen to the podcast because that helps us get seen in search results. It helps other people find the podcast, make sure that they hit play too. So thank you very much for doing this. I'll let you know when you have to do it unless you're a, early birdie and want to do it now, which you can. But in the meantime, Caroline, what's new?
Well, for those, folks who might not make it all the way to the end, I guess I'll just throw this in now. We're now on Threads. So
yeah, we are,
I'll
baby.
Repeat this. I'll repeat this at the end, but we're on Threads. So that's a piece of news.
I love it.
Yeah, so far, so good. So
it.
far, the vibes are very nice. So find us there. I'll remind you again at the end of the episode. And obviously, we have some very hard-hitting news to get to, but I just wanted to take a moment on something very nice and positive for a moment, and that what great listeners we have, because I was just like, logging on to the podcast Instagram yesterday, as I do, and I saw that one of our listeners, Emily, tagged us in 2 videos. So I clicked to see what it is, and they're videos about Swan Lake. And I'm like, oh, so cool. And then I realized it's because the American Ballet Theater is doing Swan Lake for like 5 performances in New York City. So you better bet your ass that I logged on and I bought my ticket and I went to Swan Lake last night, which has been something I have wanted to see Swan Lake kind of my entire life. And it was like we sat in the nosebleeds of the Metropolitan Opera House for like $30. We were like 7 miles away from the stage and it was beautiful and wonderful. And I loved every second of it. So Emily, thank you. You just like really made one of my like bucket list items happen. So just to all of you who just tag us in things and like share things that you think that we would like, it really means the world. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we do see it.
We do see it and we act on it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the real stuff because what a day today has been. So
yeah, it has.
I guess which one should we talk about first? Let's talk about Bob Iger first.
All
so
right.
I guess this was yesterday or 2 days ago that it was announced. It was announced that Bob Iger has extended his contract with Disney until 2026. He was really just supposed to fill in the interim after Bob Chapek. He is here to stay until 2026. And this will relate very closely to the next piece of news that we're going to discuss. So Bob Iger earns about, I said it was $25 million. Connor told me it's $27 million annually. And his bonus is now potentially increasing to 5 times its previous size. So he's making a lot of money to stay at Disney, which then makes this next tie into a big piece of news very interesting. So, as you all know, we've talked about it on the podcast before. The WGA, the Writers Guild of America, has been on strike. When did that strike begin? It's been 2 months. It's been 2 months.
Yeah.
And today, a couple of hours before we recorded this episode, SAG-AFTRA, the Film and TV Actors Union, is also striking.
Yeah.
And And so, I mean, so much to dissect there and why it should be happening. We probably can't get to all of it, but to tie it to the piece of news I was just discussing, and it's not going to end anytime soon, so we will have plenty of time to discuss. Bob Iger, just to make a complete ass of himself, said this today about the folks who are striking to, feed their families and get paid for the labor that they do. Really, that's all it is, people. Please don't
and
get
be
us
able to
started.
have insurance.
Right. Yeah. Or to not have their likenesses stolen by AI. This is what he said in response to that. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they're adding to the set of the challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive. There's nothing that there's no really satisfying enough curse words that I could really say right now to this man who makes $27 million a year. And you're telling me about what is realistic, my guy?
Yeah, while he's with David Zaslav and Mark Zuckerberg at a billionaire retreat.
Yes. So please, there's so much on, especially if you follow the two of us on social media, you'll see us reposting things if you want more information about this.
I'll have it all.
Yeah, there's been things being posted from the cast of Orange is the New Black and the way that so many of them were working side jobs while being on one of the biggest shows on television because streaming will screw the hell out of you if you're an actor. So it's just, there's too much to even cover. Please read up on it. It's super important. As Connor mentioned to me earlier, premieres, actors who are in SAG are now not allowed to promote anything that they Barbie, The Haunted Mansion, which connects to Disney. If the strike is still happening, which it will be on July 28th, there will be no actors walking the carpet at the premiere.
No.
So yeah, everyone that we turn to in 2020 to keep our sanity alive and bring some joy to our lives deserves to be able to feed their families. Please read up on it if you can.
Yeah. And since, our podcast is at its core two actors talking about Disney, this is very near and dear to our hearts. I just joined SAG-AFTRA, so I'm now on strike. And I think one of the biggest things for all of you who may not necessarily be familiar with this world is that when everyone thinks of an actor, they think of the celebrities. You think of the people who make a lot of money. You're like, why are they striking? And they want more money. The strike isn't about them. This is about the people who are trying to make a career out of acting, not just the ones the very, very small that you see who are up at the top leading all the blockbusters. These are people who have families, who have made careers, who have supported themselves or tried to support themselves by doing as many TV projects and film projects, whatever they can. This is about the background actors. These are about stand-ins. These are about photo doubles. These are about all of those people who are represented by SAG-AFTRA, who are slowly but surely seeing their career eroded over time to a point where the new people trying to break in, who knows what that career will even look like by the time they get there. So this is a really, really big time. It's also one of the first times that a labor union is seriously taking up, with the WGA, seriously taking up the conversation about artificial intelligence in the workforce. So it's really going to be paving the way of how all future labor negotiations will talk about artificial intelligence, not just in entertainment, but beyond. So it's really a historic moment right now. I'm not just saying it because I'm kind of in it. But yeah, there's a lot of people who I know their gut reaction is the rich people need more money. This isn't about the rich people.
No.
This is about your neighbor who's an actor.
Yeah. And this is about the richest people, all of the CEOs of these companies who want to begrudge people a 1/100th of what they own, which is just the part that gets me. And that's the thing is, it's I was never under the impression Bob Iger is a millionaire CEO like the rest of them. I was never under the impression he's this perfect man. It was just such a relief for him to return to the Disney company after Bob Chapek. But it's such a slap in the face to hear him say these things. And so we are going to continue the thing that we always keep repeating that we work really hard to stick by, which is we love Disney, but if you don't point out the things that are going wrong, you don't really love the thing. And it's just sure, there are so many production companies and CEOs that are just doing the wrong thing right now. It's not just Disney, but I'm kind of relieved in a weird way right now that we're not talking about Disney because that just puts such a bad taste in my mouth. This man just He just made me feel so ick.
I think what's the problem with that is specifically is that he has an image that makes it feel like he is very, very down to earth, very one of us.
Yes.
And we just have to remember that despite what the image may be, he is very much not one of us. And all we can do is try and keep educating him and demanding what is needed. But buckle up, folks. It's going to be a bit of a time. What other news we got?
All right. Let's just talk about, it just makes me so mad. Let's just talk about a couple of other light things. Luckily, it's a fun light episode today too. I think we could use a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Just talking about some park stuff. So the Oogie Boogie Bash, the, Halloween party that happens in Disneyland every year, is officially sold out. The day that the tickets went on sale, the website crashed. It was a whole mess. And now it is officially, once they got things back up again, it is sold out. You cannot get a ticket. Jollywood Nights and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party in Walt Disney World are on sale. And as far as I know, there are still tickets for both of those things. I've been watching the Jollywood Nights calendar just every day. I'm still trying to figure out how to make that happen.
Do we just do it?
Do we just go?
Girl.
We keep talking. Once a week, Connor and I will text each other about it. So it's...
You're like, are we going to Jollywood?
It's in the air. Speaking of the Haunted Mansion, which is going to be premiering in just 2 weeks or so, we've got food items from the film appearing in the parks. Most notably, Cafe Orleans in Disneyland has a whole Haunted Mansion pre-fee menu. And the dessert is straight up shaped like a candle. It looks like a real candle, but it's a dessert. The stuff is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. It looks
They've
pretty
got
cool.
Some Cinemark movie theaters are selling Madame Leota popcorn buckets. The merch is going to be out of control. It's going to be great. And this caught my eye. I always have the one silly dining thing that I'm probably the only person who cares about this. But I am, a DVC member. My home resort is the Boardwalk, so I'm always into news about the Boardwalk. First of all, they've redone a lot of the rooms at the Boardwalk Inn, and they look very lovely, so I'm excited about that. And Blue Ribbon Corn Dogs is going to be coming to the Boardwalk, so they're a big hit in downtown Disney and Disneyland, and they have a lot of really niche and unique things like a pickle dog. And so they're going to be coming to the Boardwalk. So just, I'm always a fan of new dining in the park, so I'm excited about that at my home resort.
Oh, one little thing. I mean, I'm not going to mention the Emmy nominations came out, but I just want to point out one that I was super jazzed about. Andor got nominated for Best Drama Series, so that's super exciting.
That is on my list. That is on my list.
It's so freaking good.
And now I'll have so much time because we're not going to get anything new. So I'm all these things that we talk about that I'm I gotta watch that. I'm gonna finally watch.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But other Disney movie news for Disney 100, they are re-releasing a ton of different movies back into theaters for limited periods of time. Kind of like what they did during the Dream Big Princess campaign where they released all those princess films back into theaters. But we're going to see Pirates of the Caribbean, Moana, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Toy Story, tons of them all throughout the rest of the year as part of Disney 100. So I'm really excited for some of those re-releases, though I also can't help but think that they preemptively did that knowing that
there would be no new
content. Strikes were going to be happening. So,
everything is just so
always
yucky.
Look at what they're doing. Yeah. But I think we'll just call it there in terms of news and just get right into some of the happy things.
Yeah.
So let's get into the episode. We are continuing our non-Disney cycle with our tips and tricks episode. And so usually when we do these, we love to give you some of our favorite ones of these are marathons and playlists and things like that. And because we don't really cover non-Disney stuff on this podcast, we're we don't really know when this is going to happen again. So we're going to give you one of each. I've created a marathon for you, and Caroline has created a playlist. So you're going to get a little bit of everything in this episode. So let's dive in. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to talk about my non-Disney movie marathon for you. So I did center it around a theme. And my theme here is environmentalism in animation.
Yes.
I find the topic of environmentalism in animation so interesting because it appears so often and it seems to be something that is very pressing on the mind of animators. And I think it's for a couple things. Like, one, it's very easy to get a message like environmentalism across in an animated feature because animation as an art form itself is about getting the most amount of communication across to someone in the shortest period of time. So having a statement that's very, very clear, a message that's very clear like that, animation is kind of a perfect medium. But also animation, cartoons, there's something about it that allows us as an audience to open up more to possibility because of how abstract it is. Like when you think about some of those like dirty animated cartoons like Big Mouth, Family Guy, even The Simpsons had a lot more adult things to it. They were able to get away with a lot more because it wasn't real. So we open ourselves up a little bit and allow for more things. And animation itself becomes a very subversive medium because all animation is saying something. And we allow ourselves to occupy such a vulnerable space when we view it because it's just cartoons. But it's not just cartoons.
I love that. It's so
and animators have been aware that they are producing not just cartoons for longer than we have been aware that they have producing not just cartoons. And one of the easiest ways to see that is in how they address environmentalism in their films. And then the last thing I'll just say in sort of like my opening and all of this is that I think another reason why it's so present is many animators and artists, they have to draw their inspiration from nature because they're creating something out of nothing. So like when you think about even Disney, when they were doing Bambi, bringing in wildlife so that they could study them, draw them. These artists are the ones who are out there in the world finding physical inspiration. So they're the ones seeing the effects of it very, very closely. So of course, this would sort of be like a topic that's very much on their mind. So I'm going to take you through 8 different films that are part of this movie marathon that I want to include and the sort of different areas of environmentalism that they touch on. So I'll just give you a little brief synopsis of each in case you're unfamiliar with them.
I'm excited.
So the first one I've got on here is The Lorax, the TV special. So this is all about deforestation and pollution. So the TV special, it aired as a TV special on CBS on February 14th, 1972, and was later released on VHS in 1994. And the studio, it was DePatie, Freeling Enterprises, and Cat in the Hat Productions. And you can watch this on YouTube. It's not really available anywhere for streaming, but there's a lot of versions you can watch on YouTube that are great. I mean, I remember watching this as a kid in school all the time.
Me too. Yes.
Fantastic.
Oh my God.
So if you don't know, The Lorax is an animated musical short written by Dr. Seuss based on his book of the same name. And it follows the story of a boy who meets up with a mysterious, ruined industrialist named Onceler in an empty and polluted town. And the Onceler then recounts the story of his meeting the Lorax, a furry orange humanoid character that was the guardian for the once lush land. And as a young man, the Onceler came to the area and discovered the beautiful truffula trees and knitted their tufts into thneeds. But as his greed, ambition, and business grows, the forest shrinks, forcing out its inhabitants through deforestation and pollution until the Lorax himself is forced to leave as well. Eventually, with no more trees, the business dies, leaving the land a wasteland, save for one small glimmer of hope. So, if you are unfamiliar with the Lorax, which I feel like most people are very familiar with the Lorax, but if you're not, watch this. It's basically a perfected version of the book. Like it's everything that you need from the book. Thurl Ravenscroft is in the voice cast. It's so good. It's so good. And it's got some music to it. The Lorax is my favorite Dr. Seuss story.
I speak for the trees.
Yeah, this is, I think, where I sort of like got my kick into like, yeah, we should take care of this stuff was with the Lorax.
The Lorax lifting himself off the planet by his own ass is the most, it's
the most relatable thing ever. I am ready to
relatable.
lift myself off this planet by my fucking ass.
I used to say that to my friends in high school because I was in environmental science and we watched the Lorax and I was like, I'm ready to Lorax
lift me out
right
of here, baby.
Here.
Yep.
I love that.
So our next film in this marathon is The Secret of Nim. which that sort of represents animal testing and science and intelligence. So it was released on July 2nd, 1982, and it was from Don Bluth Productions.
Well.
You can watch this right now on Paramount Plus, Roku Channel, MGM Plus, Tubi, and some others. So it's in a couple different places, so you can look around for it. Sometimes it shows up on Amazon Prime a lot, too.
Mm-hmm.
So a synopsis of The Secret of NIMH. It is Don Bluth's directorial debut and is based on Robert C. O'Brien's novel Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of NIMH. Now, they had to change the name from Mrs. Frisby to Mrs. Brisby because there was a very famous toy at the same time that they would have hit some serious copyright snags with.
Heard of it?
But Mrs. Brisby, a shy and timid yet beautiful field mouse, lives in a cinder block with her children in a field on the Fitzgibbons farm. She is preparing to move her family out of the field they live in as plowing time approaches. However, her son Timothy has fallen ill with pneumonia and cannot be moved. She then embarks on a journey to seek the mysterious and highly intelligent rats of NIMH to help her move her house. The rats were once the property of a lab who experimented on them, giving them advanced intelligence, but their freedom may be short-lived if they cannot help Mrs. Brisby and escape before the lab finds them on the farm to exterminate them.
Phew.
This movie is so good because it's based on a children's novel, but there's a lot of dark shit in this, and it does what Don Bluth does best, where he does not shy away from the darkness in this story. These are rats that were experimented on. They have high intelligence. They are aware of what is happening to them. It's just very, very interesting and was sort of one of my, alongside Legally Blonde 2, intros to animal testing as a kid. So, and the dangers of it, but also the value of science and intelligence and how the rats of NIMH sort of feel a responsibility to take care of others now that they have acquired an intelligence that others are not able to acquire. So it has a lot of really, really powerful messages and themes about looking out for each other as well, in addition to just, don't test on animals like a fucking ass. Like,
You're killing me today.
The third film in this marathon is Over the Hedge, which deals with dehabitation and extermination. And I loved this movie when I was a kid. So it was released April 30th, 2006. It had its premiere, and then it was released officially on May 19th, 2006. And it is from DreamWorks Animation. You can currently watch it on Netflix, I believe.
Oh my God.
And a little brief synopsis of this, if you're unfamiliar. It's set in Indiana, and the film centers on a raccoon named RJ, who is forced to deliver food to a bear named Vincent after accidentally destroying his stockpile of food. Very Bug's Life kind of vibes here. He manipulates a family of woodland animals who have recently awakened from hibernation to discover that their home has been turned into a housing development. And he tricks them into helping him steal food from the people in order to speed up the process of paying back Vincent the bear. But when the housing development hires an exterminator to remove the animals, the lives of the naive woodland creatures are even more endangered as they help RJ's scam. It's a really good movie. It has an amazing voice cast. Avril Lavigne plays a possum. You can't go wrong. Like, you can't. Avril Lavigne and Eugene Levy? Come on.
Dream
Get
team.
out of here. Wanda Sykes? Come on.
Yes, Wanda Sykes is particularly good in this.
So good. It has been a very long time since I've seen Over the Hedge.
Me
but I was
too.
like, yeah, no, Over the Hedge has those environmentalism vibes as well, because they wake up and their home has been just taken over.
Yeah.
And all of them are trying to get the little animals ruined. I'm like, bitch, that was their house. Oh, so good. And the people, they get what's coming to them, which is very, I love watching people just like get beat up on by animals. That's always fun. Our fourth film is Once Upon a Forest, which deals with littering and pollution.
What is that? Wait, I do not know what this film is.
You don't know this? You might know it if I start
Okay.
describing it to you. It was released on June 18th, 1993 from Hanna-Barbera Productions. You can't really watch it anywhere. It's only available to rent or buy, but I'm sure if you look hard enough and make sure that you're safe on the interwebs, you probably find a version. But sometimes I've also seen it come to streamers. So like, just hold your breath a little while and then it'll be there. Or buy it. I don't care. But the synopsis, it's based on a furling story by Ray Lambert. And this film follows 3 furlings, which are animal children, who must go on an adventure to find a cure for their sick friend. On the first day of school, the animals discover a road and a car that drives by, throwing a glass bottle from the window that shatters. Later, a tanker truck comes along and has a blowout after running over the glass. And in doing so, it overturns, releasing poison gas on the forest, causing their one friend to get very, very sick. And her only hope is for her friends to find 2 herbs that will help revive her before she succumbs to the poison.
I don't know this.
You don't know this?
I do not.
I loved this movie.
Oh.
There is this image. Okay, so like the kids go on this field trip on the first day of school, and then when they come back in the gas, like everyone in their home is gone and they don't know where they are. So that's why the kids have to go out and like find it. And I just have this distinct memory because one of the little furlings, he's a mole and he has glasses and a scarf, and he reminded me of me. And he's going off to school, and his mom is like trying to say like goodbye to him and give him a kiss goodbye, and he doesn't say goodbye, Mom, as he's going off to school. And then he comes back and everyone's gone, and he realizes like he didn't say goodbye to his mother. And I'm like, fuck me.
No.
That is one of my deepest fears that that if I don't say goodbye to my mom,
stop.
And I think it started from this movie. So if you want to have that fear, watch this movie. But also if you want to, make sure that you don't litter and be a complete dick, you can also watch this movie too. Because we don't want to poison our dear little friend Michelle, the badger, so that she has to depend on her hedgehog, mole, and I think mouse friend to go find 2 herbs and build a little plane out of leaves. No. Okay. Movie number 5. It's Happy Feet.
Heck yeah.
Which deals with climate change and overfishing. So Happy Feet was released on November 17th, 2006 from a studio called Animal Logic, which is based out of Australia, I believe. And it's really cool. They use a lot of motion capture for this movie. You can only rent and buy this one currently too, but don't worry, it'll come to streamers too. I've seen it a lot. But this Academy Award-winning animated jukebox musical is set in Antarctica and follows Mumble, an emperor penguin who, despite his lacking the ability to sing the heart song to attract a soulmate, is able to tap dance brilliantly. And after being continuously ridiculed and rejected by peers and his own father, Mumble departs on a journey to learn what is causing the local fish population to decline and to find himself along the way. And so this deals, what's nice about this movie, and I don't want to give too much away in case you haven't seen it, but it deals with like the darker side of fishing, of overfishing and things like that. But there's also some hope at the end in terms of how people play a role in that and how we as conservationists take care of animals and protect places like Antarctica. So that's Happy Feet. And so now we're going to move on to number 6, which I couldn't do this marathon without having Fern Gully, the Last Rainforest in it, which again deals with deforestation and pollution. But you know what? We'll put it in here again. A lot of these are going to have to deal with deforestation, pollution. This is environmentalism, people. Okay. The studio, it's from Croyer Films, Young Heart Productions, and FAI Films. You can watch it currently on Stars, because, everyone has Stars, and Pluto TV, which I think that's one of those ones where you can watch it with ads for free, and you don't even really have to make an account.
I think so.
Yeah, but it also, I've seen it hit Amazon. I've seen it hit Netflix. It makes its way around. So whenever you're listening to this, if you're listening to this 70 years in the future, you probably don't even have Netflix. But A synopsis of Fern Gully for you. Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest is adapted from the Fern Gully stories, set in an Australian rainforest inhabited by fairies, including Krista, who accidentally shrinks a young logger named Zach to the size of a fairy. Together, they rally the fairies and the animals of the rainforest to protect their home from the loggers and Hexus, a malevolent pollution entity. And I just want to mention some of the voice talents that are included in this cast because it's baller. You got Samantha Mathis, Tim Curry, Christian Slater, Robin Williams, among others. So Fern Gully is a classic. I mean, I remember even more so than the film, the ads for Fern Gully that would play ahead of like all of my home videos.
Yeah, so true. Wow. I haven't thought about that in so long.
So yeah, Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest. Get into it.
Absolutely.
Our 7th film, The Wind in the Willows, which this is sort of like, I wanted to include this because this is more of like an idyllic pastoral version. So I'm talking about The Wind in the Willows, the TV special that originally aired on ITV in the UK on December 25th, 1995. And it was from TVC London, which is now defunct. It's gone. But you can watch this on YouTube, and it's an animated TV film of the Kenneth Grahame classic novel, Wind in the Willows. And it follows the lives of animals along the riverbank through the various seasons and their relationships with each other and to the world around them. And I recently was a guest on Book of the Mouse Club to talk about this book. And I mentioned this adaptation of the book because of how faithful it is to the story. And I'm including it in this marathon because it is in itself a comment on industrialization in how it pushes to preserve the country in an English pastoral novel centered around animals. So to me, this is that idyllic animated animal story that is environmental without being extremely forthright about it. It sort of romanticizes the country and nature. And so in doing so, it makes a statement to preserve the wild beauty of the world and let it be as untouched by man and industry as possible. Kenneth Grahame, we talk about this in the podcast as well. Kenneth Grahame was kind of very anti-progress. And so, Mr. Toad and his motor car, it's kind of a condemnation of a lot of the booms of the Industrial Revolution that was starting to happen, where he himself, Kenneth Grahame, retreated to the country. And that was a place that always held a special place in his heart. And this sort of like series of fables, which is really, it started the genre of children's fiction. It's very much an ode to the world that he is yearning for, that he wants to stick around. So I include this here because one, the animation is beautiful. I love this. It starts out with Vanessa Redgrave with some grandchildren on a boat, and then she opens the story and it goes into animation. And she narrates it. It's got a stellar cast as well. You got Michael Palin, Michael Gambon, got lots of people in it. And then it returns to live action at the end when she finishes the story. And they have, a picnic lunch on the riverbank. And I'm just like, God, that's what I want. But I remember distinctly watching this. My grandmother had a video cassette of this. And I would steal it from her house and bring it home and watch it in my basement.
Oh.
But go watch this movie. It's real good. And it's just right on YouTube. You can just watch it on YouTube. All right, our last film of this marathon, I could not have it. It's Princess Mononoke.
Woo!
This deals headfirst with industrialization as a whole. It was released on July 12th, 1997. It's from Studio Ghibli. You can watch it on Max. In my opinion, this film is Miyazaki's opus. It's his best film. This is the most perfect summation of industrialization in film to me, and it has inspired so many people in this industry, including James Cameron with his Avatar franchise. One of the most beautiful things about this is it's not a full condemnation of technology. It acknowledges that we have to find a way for them to live together, which that's kind of what no one really is saying. Everyone's like, we need to do this in these movies, but no one's like, no, we need to find a balance. There is a balance that we have to reach because we do need this. There's value in industry. Technically, this film is not Disney, but it also can be Disney because they handled the distribution in the United States along with the voice dubs in English. So I could write a dissertation about this film. I probably will.
You
Today's not
definitely
that day.
will. Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
This film has haunted me since the first time I saw it. And no joke, I think about it once a week. I will be talking about this film some other time on this podcast. But for now, I'm going to leave you with this synopsis from Bob Stewart on allmovie.com. Princess Mononoke depicts a mystical battle between animal gods of the forest and humans during Japan's Muromachi period. Young Ashitaka receives a fatal infection after a demonic wild boar attacks his northern village. Seeking a cure, he sets out to locate the deer god Shishigami. Along the way, he sees the destruction of the earth by a mining village. The constant plundering by the village has brought the wrath of the wolf god Moro, who attacks the village along with San, a human who was raised by the wolf god. She communicates with the nature spirits, which is why she is called Princess Mononoke, meaning spirit of things. Ashitaka wants these opposing forces to coexist, and he hopes to bring peace between San and the ironworks owner, Lady Eboshi. However, he is thwarted as higher powers, intent on killing the Shishigama, intrude, and a battle erupts over the future of all nature. This is one of the most epic animated films, if not the most epic animated film I have ever seen. It has a PG-13 rating. I've never seen. Yes.
Oh.
It's a PG-13 rating. Oh my God. The score is absolutely incredible. This film will haunt you, and it rightfully should. The English dub cast of this is amazing because you've got Billy Crudup, you have Minnie Driver, you have Billy Bob Thornton, Claire Danes, Gillian Anderson. It's just so many. Keith David. So many people are in this cast. It is absolutely incredible. If you watch none of the other films on this list, please watch this movie because it is the epitome of environmentalism in animation, more so than WALL-E, I would say. And I love WALL-E. So those are my films. If you want to do your little thing and go down the rabbit hole of how throughout time we have been exposed to amazing pieces of art about protecting our environment and protecting our planet from climate change and human involvement of the planet. We've been receiving these stories for a very, very long time. And it's nice to look back and sort of celebrate and say, oh, yep, I remember I learned that from this, or I learned that from this, or look how far we've come from this, or wow, we really didn't learn shit from that. So I invite you to do this movie marathon. It's a lot of fun, and it's a way to start looking at other studios who are doing really, really important work besides Disney.
I loved that. I'm so glad you picked that topic.
Yay.
I loved it. All right. I have a playlist for y'all.
Yay! We love playlists.
This one, the theme of this playlist is just non-Disney takes on fairy tales. But as I was putting it together, I just realized there's a whole lot of musical theater in this playlist. So I was going to limit it. There's going to be a lot of musical theater. I always find the connection between theater and musical theater folks and Disney folks interesting. The two are very interconnected. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to hear from you all which of these musicals and things you are familiar with and which you just learned about for the first time. So let's take a little ride. Not everything is musical theater though. So I've sprinkled in a little bit of everything. So I've organized this just by, either movie or show. I think you can listen to it in this order, or you can just hit shuffle. I think it will work either way. So what I'm going to start with is two musical selections from the movie Thumbelina.
Oh.
So the score of Thumbelina is composed entirely by Barry Manilow, which I always forget, and I just kind of...
Whoa, yeah.
You're like,
oh my
right,
God.
It's Barry Manilow. This is an adaptation of the Hans Christian Andersen story, keeping pretty true to it to my knowledge. It was released in 1994, bombing at the box office and going on, much like Swan Princess, to become pretty beloved by 90s kids.
Yeah.
So, in case you don't know the story, Thumbelina, only a few inches tall, fears she will be lonely in her sighs forever until she meets Cornelius, Prince of the Fairies, and falls in love with him. When she's kidnapped by the lustful Mr. Toad, her journey to be reunited with Cornelius begins. So I have chosen 2 songs from Thumbelina. Listen, there are some not so good songs in this, so we're going to focus on these 2. So, first of all, I have chosen Soon. So in the film, this is sung by the Jodie Benson as Thumbelina. It is a short and sweet number. It is lovely. It's a crime. It is not available on Apple Music. But in a fun twist, so this is the version that I'll probably link for you all. If you listen to our last episode, there is a cover on Apple Music sung by Michelle Nicastro, the speaking voice of Odette, who has an absolutely lovely singing voice. So interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, although this song does have echoes of Someday My Prince Will Come and, waiting to be rescued thing, there's a really nice touch to this song that lets us into Thumbelina's view of the world when she sings, "After the rain goes, there are rainbows. I'll find my rainbow soon." Very poignant and very lovely. It's so short and sweet, and it leaves you wanting more. And then, Let Me Be Your Wings.
Yeah,
this is the love song that Prince Cornelius sings to Thumbelina as he takes her on a flight. So the definitive version of this for me is from the movie, sung gorgeously by Gary Imhoff as the fairy Prince Cornelius. Again, not available. So on Apple Music, we've got the Barry Manilow cover, which serves well enough. To me, there is nothing like the original. I put this in the same category as Far Longer Than Forever. It is sweeping and romantic. And this, again, was a huge part of my romantic awakening as a kid. This song specifically, I was like, it took over everything for me. It's really, it's one of those things that just like when I listen to it today, like Far Longer Than Forever stands the test of time, and so does Let Me Be Your Wings. And some people have put some really lovely, like poppy, folky covers of it on YouTube. It's good. Of course, I'm not going to spend any time on this. We've got to put Swan Princess in here. Listen to our previous episode to hear everything that you could possibly want to hear about the Swan Princess. So Far Longer Than Forever is obviously on here. And I'm going to put This Is My Idea in as well. I've been thinking about that song a lot, and I think it deserves a place. So there we go. We're not going to talk about that.
Those were the only 2 that you added your pluses anyway.
Yeah. Let's move on, shall we? Next, we're going to choose some songs from Once Upon a Mattress. I love Once Upon a Mattress. So if you do not know, this musical comedy opened off-Broadway in 1959, making a star of the legendary Carol Burnett, with music by Mary Rogers, daughter of Richard Rogers of Rodgers and Hammerstein fame, who also wrote the novel Freaky Friday. Huh? Never knew that.
What a talent.
Right? And lyrics by Marshall Barer. It takes the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale The Princess and the Pea and turns it on its head, telling the story of Princess Winifred, aka Fred, who arrives from her swampy kingdom to vie for the hand of Prince Dauntless. His mother, Queen Agravain, has forbidden anyone in her kingdom to marry until her son does, while sabotaging every princess who arrives to be tested to find out whether she is a true, genuine princess. Goofy, unrefined Winifred begins to win the prince's heart, so the queen begins to cook up a test that no one could ever pass. This show is a delight and has a very special place in my heart. I did it in middle school. It will always mean the world to me.
I did it in middle school too. I did with a community theater, but I did it in middle school. I played the minstrel and my voice was changing during it, and it was absolutely awful. That is a terrible, terrible part to have your voice change.
It is. It really is. So there was a Broadway revival starring Sarah Jessica Parker, but for all of these, please go listen to the original recording starring the incomparable Carol Burnett. I've got a couple from this. Again, this show means a lot to me personally, so I might be biased, but there's just some really good songs. So I am starting with Many Moons Ago. So this is The Minstrel, as Connor knows.
Yeah.
Opening the show.
Yeah. Many moons ago.
Incredible.
That was me.
So The Minstrel retells the story of the Princess and the Pea as we probably know it in a lovely tune. And then what I love about this is, first of all, it's just, if the theme of this is fairy tale, this is fairy tale vibes to a T. He just retells the story. But what I love, it's good to listen to this because this song gets turned on its head in the most satisfying way in the show's finale when they sing about what makes a genuine princess. And I don't know why that makes me emotional, but it does. I can't explain it. I just love this show. Next, we have to include Shy. There's just no way not to include it. It is the intro to Princess Winifred.
If you watched the latest season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, you got to see this song get performed in the season finale.
Yes. And Leslie Kritzer does an amazing Carol Burnett. There's just no way not to include this song. It's like the iconic song from the show, and no one can do it like Carol Burnett can. Next, we've got Happily Ever After. So this song is a delightful send-up of fairy tales as Winifred later in the show contemplates the way other princesses' stories always end with marriages and how she wants to get her own fairy tale ending but needs to get it without the help of fairy godmothers or magic spells. Again, just satisfying like Carol Burnett gold. Next, Yesterday I Loved You. So with the comedic romance, with the comedic romance of Winifred and Dauntless taking center stage in this story, we also have the secondary dramatic love story of Sir Harry and Lady Larkin. That's another really fun thing about the show is in all of the classic Rodgers and Hammerstein shows, the comedic couple is secondary, but in this one, the comedic couple are the leads, and I just kind of love that.
Yeah.
So Sir Harry and Lady Larkin, they are in love, and they're expecting their first baby, but they are not married. So if you did the junior version, they took out this part of the story.
Yeah, they took out this in the junior version.
So they are in a race against time to help Dauntless find a bride so the decree can be lifted and they too can marry. And the stress has definitely taken its toll on the two of them. They, of course, find their way back to one another and they sing this beautiful duet about just like, you know, loving each other less yesterday than they will tomorrow. And it's just beautiful. I love it. And finally, the last one, I cannot really tell you why I chose it, but I have always loved this song. It's called Normandy. So once again, if you did the junior version when you were in school, this is not in it. In this one, in the full show, the minstrel and the jester comfort a distressed Lady Larkin, describing a place that she can run away to and escape the kingdom if she needs to. It's just so evocative and nostalgic for me, and I cannot explain why. And it has this, like, there's a lute in it, and it's very romantic and fairy tale sounding, and it really transports you. And I have this on vinyl, and whenever this song, like, on the record player comes on, it's just vibes. So give it a listen for yourself.
Yeah.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Also, if you ever get a chance to see a production of Once Upon a Mattress, please see it. It is one of the best times that you will have at the theater. I can guarantee it.
They did a TV version starring Tracy Ullman as Winifred with Carol Burnett as the queen. And Zooey Deschanel as Lady Larkin. It's just really, again, delightful. Moving right along. This is a big moment for me. Just like Connor has been, I've been waiting for Connor to talk about Princess Mononoke. I have been pushing and pushing and pushing to talk about Bad Cinderella in more detail. So here we go.
Oh my God. I'm like, we've heard this before.
So, with music by Andrew Lloyd Webber and lyrics by David Zippel, my honestly fave at this point, I guess. Okay, friends, I will try to control myself on this one. I've been waiting to talk about this at length, so just give me a few moments. It's not going to be too long. This entire score is wonderful. It's a crime that the Broadway cast did not get their own full recording. The West End cast is wonderful, but Linady, who played Cinderella on Broadway, Linady Hanau, and the New York Company deserve better. And Cinderella also gets a song in the Broadway version, Easy to Be Me, that is haunting and stunning and now can be found nowhere. It certainly would have made the list. So for those who aren't familiar, Bad Cinderella tells the story of the kingdom of Belleville, where Cinderella is an outcast and a rebel for rejecting the kingdom's obsession with looks and beauty. Prince Charming has mysteriously disappeared, and Prince Sebastian, Cinderella's best friend since childhood, is now the heir. When a ball is announced forcing him to choose a bride, Cinderella must face her own guarded heart, her feelings for Sebastian, and her own feelings of self-worth. There's camp, there are hunks, and a true love story at the center of it all. And it is no longer on Broadway. And I think about that at least once a day, and I get upset all over again.
Yeah. And listen, folks, I'm not Caroline, and I will attest, this show got a very, very bad rap. It was a lot of fun, and there were things about it that I was genuinely shocked that they were able to do with the story. I thought I had seen every version of Cinderella, and this was a very, very new and effectively twisted version of it. They get you rooting for Cinderella not to go to the fairy godmother and not to go to the ball, which I never thought I would see a version of Cinderella where that happens, and they did it, and they did it very, very well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't read everything on the internet and take it as gospel.
Right.
Because it's not.
Oh, if there was ever a lesson, my God. I've only chosen 4 songs. A very difficult task for me. I'm gonna start.
Chosen 4 songs.
I'm gonna start with Bad Cinderella. You have to. This track is a party, and I am a huge fan of the way the melody of "In My Own Little Corner" from the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella has been turned on its head for the chorus of the song. It's a badass anthem that I cannot get enough of, and it's honestly great for a workout if you need something for the treadmill. Both Lynette Hinau and Carrie Hope Fletcher have versions up on Apple Music, and you should listen to both of them. They are both phenomenal voices and such unique takes on the character, which is another reason why this show deserved better, because it's so moldable to the performers, and I'm always a huge fan of that. So I think had it run longer, every performer who's given the chance to be Cinderella would have brought something new and beautiful to it. And so listening to these 2 versions of the song will prove that to you. And when I put this together to link for you, I will include both versions. Next, Only You, Lonely
Oh,
You.
God. Here she goes.
So I'm just going to come clean. When I got my, whatever, I don't have Spotify, I have Apple Music, my Apple Music Wrapped from 2022. This was my most played song of 2022.
Did it tell you how many times?
It was, I don't remember the number, but let me tell you, it was frightening. Like, you look at it and you're like, oh, someone with a problem.
Oh, my God.
So, honestly, I will probably link 2 versions of this song as well, because we do not have Jordan Dobson's version from the Broadway show, which is a crime because he sang the hell out of it. So we have Ivano Turco's version from the West End, which is beautiful and stunning.
It's beautiful.
And the interesting thing they did for the West End recording is they had Todrick Hall record like a single version, and Todrick sings the hell out of this song too. So good. Actually, the Todrick version was my most played song of 2022. So there has not been a single song that has had a hold on me like this since like maybe Wicked, something from Wicked at age 10, probably like Defying Gravity. I think, and I stand by this, I think this is one of the best musical theater ballads ever. You heard me. This melody, the orchestra underneath it, the build that Prince Sebastian undergoes from, he opens the song thinking about what Cinderella's smile does to him, to fully just like singing out loud, like arms flung open, all my life I've been waiting for you. Whoa. It's honestly too much for me to take. To me, like just like Far Longer Than Forever, like I feel like there are certain songs that like distill romance, and this just does it for me. It's so good. It's so
funny because every single time I look at this song on Apple Music, your picture shows up at the top because it was like from Caroline and Meddy, because you sent this to me so many times. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm the person in the actual world who has listened to this song the most. Yeah, probably.
I don't know. What can I say? Yeah, I think if you listen to it, you'll understand what I'm saying. But moving on. I Know I Have a Heart. So this song musicalizes the moment after Cinderella runs from the ball. This time, in this version, after seeing Sebastian kiss someone else at the ball. Cinderella laments making herself vulnerable in this fantastic power ballad. So Lynette, Broadway Cinderella, has a version up on Apple Music. Thank goodness. That was another thing they had her record and release. And the arrangement of that one is a little bit more pop-leaning. Very phenomenal. Huge fan. Lynette, also, I just need to take a moment and say, I saw her sing this live. How many times did it go? 5 or 6? I can't remember now.
I think it went 6 times.
Yeah, I think it's 6 times. She wailed the absolute shit out of this on Broadway, and I wish more people had been able to see it because it was truly, it's right up there, I swear to you, with the masterclass of how to bring the full heartbreaking emotion with the vocals. It's up there with Defying Gravity. It's that she's doing the same thing and she's on a turntable in a gown. Like, she nailed it. So go listen to her version.
But I love the Carrie Hope Fletcher version too.
And it's
I just
its own
love the
thing.
orchestrations in that too.
Yeah.
It's such its own thing. You gotta listen to both, baby.
You do. And that's what's interesting is it's like impossible to choose between these 2 Cinderellas because like we said, they're 2 very different versions.
So different. Oh,
so
God.
what I'll say is, I mean, we do not have Lynette's version of this next song. So the next song that I've chosen is
it Far Too Late?
It is.
Yeah!
Of course. So Carrie Hope Fletcher's version of the song, again, is so different and I just love it. So in this number,
so good.
Cinderella is convinced that she has lost Sebastian for good. And I love the way that this song, it never grows too large or forces Cinderella to like belch for the heavens once again. It's poignant and relatively simple and sad. And it plays with the idea of, okay, this is the moment in a fairy tale or in a musical when I would finally realize everything I feel for you and tell you and sing it. And I can't because it's too late. I lost my chance. And Carrie Hope Fletcher just delivers it so beautifully and simply. This score is just so like lush and fair. I will love it
very
forever.
full.
It's so full. I will never stop loving this. I will never stop loving it. Please listen.
Yep. And don't yuck her yum, people.
Eva. Let's talk about two other Cinderellas. I've grouped them together. I almost did a whole Cinderella playlist, but we know me. I've got a problem. I'm in my Cinderella era of life and I'm kind of okay with it. So next, I have chosen two tracks from the soundtrack to the Amazon Cinderella starring Camila Cabello. So Amazon released this musical retelling in September 2021. As I said, starring Camila Cabello as Cinderella and Idina Menzel as the stepmother. Though largely a jukebox musical, this version also included some original music, pretty much 2 songs. Some of the covers are really wonderful. Ella and the Prince singing Ed Sheeran's Perfect at the ball is actually really beautiful. And the women at the ball sing What a Man. And it's like, it's doing all of the right things. So I'm not like fully in love with this film, but I have watched it more than once. So take that as you will. So I am including Million to One. So this is written by Camila Cabello and Scott Harris and performed by Camila in the movie. And this is her Princess I Want song. So this Ella is a dress designer who dreams of opening her own shop. And this song is her visualizing grabbing her own success against all odds. It's a little bit generic lyrically, so you can really layer on your own hopes and dreams onto this one and have like your own like power ballad moment. And I honestly think this song is super memorable and a nice choice for this new take on the character. And then the other song that I'm going to choose is just the score suite at the end of the movie. I love a suite, especially from a fairy tale movie. And this one has the classic sweeping sound that I love. And for one more Cinderella, of course, we have to talk about Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, but I will not torture you anymore with the discussion of the Brandy version. As we know, there is no album for it anyway, so we can't talk about it. And I also acknowledge that I need to give it a rest. So instead, I have included a few songs from the Broadway revival of the musical, which opened in 2013 with a revised book by Douglas Carter Beane.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, with familiar songs from the television specials and additional songs from the Rodgers and Hammerstein songbook to fill it all out. Cinderella in this version is given a little bit more texture as part of her storyline is helping the prince recognize injustice taking place in his kingdom and the importance of kindness and all of these things. I mostly want to focus on the songs that aren't in the Brandy version that we all know so well so that you can hear a little something new. So first of all, you have to listen to the overture. It is one of my favorites to ever exist. It is the sound of pure Broadway magic. Yeah, it's magic. Then I think you should also listen right into the prologue. So this very short track, it's dreamy. It instantly transports you to this like gorgeous fairy tale world of the show while giving us a quick moment to introduce us to Cinderella in a very simple but smart way. So the first line that she ever sings in this version of the story is after the chorus sings about what a lovely day it is and how beautiful everything looks. And she sings, "It makes you wish that the world could be as lovely as it looks," setting her up in this really simple, perfect way to be a heroine who wants to see something better in the world, who wants the world to be a better place than it looks like it is. I love that.
And also, the chorus is singing from the wings, so you don't see anyone. The first person we see on stage is Cinderella
with her cart of pumpkins. Next, Cinderella Waltz. This you know from the Brandy version. This is a perfect piece of music. It's a perfect piece of music. Next, we have this, a very short little treat called He Was Tall.
Oh.
This very short number really fascinates me. It's just a private moment for Cinderella to reflect on the absolutely wild night that she just had. And I love that this lyric. And I was floating just above the floor, feeling slightly taller than before. just like simple and just so Rodgers and Hammerstein and like lovely. And it's like she's describing what it felt like to be in the ballroom, and there's like a little harp, and it's just beautiful. You can like feel like the wind. I love it. Then we also get The Loneliness of Evening. So Cinderella and Prince Topher sing this separately as he searches for her. And so they're both singing the same thing, but they're in different locations. So romantic. And it pulls in some of 10 Minutes Ago. It's a very, very beautiful melding of the Rodgers and Hammerstein song that we know and is so iconic with something new. And it fits beautifully. And it's a nice moment of like musicalizing that moment makes a lot of sense to me. And then finally, I have included one song that we do know from the Brandy version, and that's There's Music in You. So it will always be the Whitney version for me, especially because she is the person who made this song associated with the Cinderella musical in the first place. They took it from the R&H songbook for her for the TV special. But Victoria Clark, who just won the Tony this year for Kimberly Akimbo, again, her second Tony, she gives a more classical Broadway performance of the song that is no less wonderful. It is just its own thing, which I love. But it still leaves me with that same feeling that I get with the Whitney one of just like, it's just like really empowering and beautiful and hopeful. So definitely give that a listen. We're moving on to something that does actually include Cinderella again, but it's not about Cinderella. So we're going to talk about Into the Woods. So, Into the Woods, I'm sure that most of you know about Into the Woods. It opened on Broadway in 1987 and was revived in 2002 and again in 2022, very recently on Broadway. Its film adaptation was released in 2014. With music and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim, this musical intertwines the plots of several grim fairy tales centered around a baker and his wife, who are on a quest to break the curse that is preventing them from having a child of their own. Honestly, what can you even say about this musical at this point? It's like iconic. If you've never seen it, do yourself a huge favor and watch the filmed version of the original Broadway cast. I checked today. It is on YouTube. I'm sure sometimes it gets taken down, but go and look. Go watch
I have
it.
the DVD. If you need the DVD, call me and I'll mail it out to you as long as it comes back.
So, like, how do you choose? Number one, how do you choose songs from this? Because, like, every song is a winner. And how do you choose
all of them?
And how do you choose versions? So I've made the difficult choice. Here we go. Giants in the Sky. What a song.
Obvi.
What a song. I'm going to go with the 2022 Broadway revival version for this one, mostly because that recording gives this song its own track, sung beautifully by Cole Thompson as Jack of Beanstalk fame. This song, like the whole show, will shock you with its relatability. I listened to this song nonstop after going home for the summer after my first year of college because of this lyric.
Oh, God.
And you think of all of the things you've seen, and you wish that you could live in between. And you're back again, only different than before. And I was just like, oh my God, that's what's happening to me. That's what I feel right now. I don't know where I belong. And like, yeah, amazing. Probably one of my favorite musical theater songs ever. And Cole just sings the shit out of it. Next, we have Agony. You really can't go wrong with any version of this song. The original cast of Robert Westenberg and Chuck Wagner made the song what it is. Chris Pine and Billy Magnuson are honestly phenomenal in the film version as well. And I was lucky enough to see Gavin Creel and Joshua Henry, who were just two of my favorite theater actors, period, perform this live. And it was a masterclass in like milking the comedy of this song. So for background, if you do not know, this is a duet between the two princes of the show, Cinderella's and Rapunzel's, lamenting why they cannot possess the maidens that they are lusting after. So I'm going to go with the Gavin Creel and Joshua Henry version for this one because they have two of my favorite voices in musical theater ever. And then we get the comedy on top of it. And it's really hard to it's hard to turn that away. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I didn't have this in here at first, and then it was bothering me. So I put in On the Steps of the Palace. So we've got another Cinderella song. I'm a Cinderella sucker at this point, and once again, relatability, this lyric. So then which do you pick? Where you're safe out of sight and yourself, but where everything's wrong? Or where everything's right and you know that you'll never belong? Like, hello, please. I'm going to go with the original Kim Crosby version. But the film, this is not the version I would choose, but I do like the fun choice that the film makes in having to change the tense of a lot of the verbs. But they have this song happen to Cinderella as time freezes while she is actually running down the palace steps and has to decide in that moment what to do, which is it raises the stakes of it and it's a lot of fun. And then finally, again, how do you pick just a couple of songs from this show? It's more like focusing on, for this playlist, fairy tale focus. But I did choose No One Is Alone for the last. I almost chose Children Will Listen, but I went with No One Is Alone. This song never fails to bring tears to my eyes. It follows the devastating turn that Act 2 of the musical takes. No spoilers if you have not seen it. And it is just so incredible to me how simply and melodically Stephen Sondheim can write. There's really nothing more to say here. And I guess for this, again, you can't really go wrong, but listen to the original cast version.
Yeah.
With Chip and
Kim Crosby.
Yeah, exactly. We're moving on to another. A lot of these also happen to be like my favorite musicals of all time. So this is just a thrill for me. Once on This Island, which is soon to be Disney, which is nuts to me because Disney did buy the rights to make a feature film for Disney Plus of this musical. So, wow. So if you do not know, this musical is an adaptation of the 1985 novel My Love, My Love by Rosa Guy, which was itself based on Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid. I'm fully in love with this musical. It is composed by the inimitable Stephen Flaherty with lyrics by Lynn Ahrens. Hello, we just talked about them last episode as well.
Anastasia.
Set in the Caribbean, it tells the story of Timoon, a black peasant girl who falls in love with Daniel, who is a lighter-skinned, rich boy from the other side of the island, after saving his life after his car crashes in a storm. Timoon has always been watched over by the 4 gods who rule her island, and she makes a deal with Papa Gay, demon of death, trading her life in exchange for him sparing Daniel from his own death. When Daniel returns to his side of the island, Timoon sets out to be reunited with him against all odds and the prejudice of the society that they live in. So first, we dance. This number opens the show, establishing the island and its connection to the gods. I get full body chills when I listen to this song, and I'm going to choose the 2017 Broadway revival version for this one because they utilize practical items and new vocal arrangements that are, some of them are a cappella, to create the most evocative sound that I've probably ever heard on Broadway. It's everything. The 2017 Broadway revival is hands down one of the best things I've ever seen on Broadway. I love this musical so much that it's actually very hard for me to speak about it. So that's all I've got for you as far as explanation. Then we have Waiting for Life. So this is Timoon's I Want song, her part of your world, if you will. But I love that when she sings this, she has not yet met Daniel. So the focus isn't on a man, but on a world of adventure outside of her small village and her small, limited life. Haley Kilgore from the revival sings the living hell out of this song. She was an absolute revelation in this show.
Which is something to say when LaShawn originated the part.
Yes. This song is also just so perfect for the character of Timoon, and it's like perfect pairing of character and song. Mama Will Provide. You have to listen to Alex Newell's version from the revival.
Yeah, you do.
It's iconic.
You do.
That's it. There's also, Alex Newell also performed it on the Tony Awards the year that Once on This Island was nominated, and you should watch that on YouTube as well. And then finally, again, this is a show where I could go on and on. I could choose so many songs. I love so many of them, but I've chosen Why We Tell the Story. So this slightly spoils the end of the musical. So proceed with caution if you're not ready for it to be spoiled. It ties everything up. The conceit of this show is that a group of people, it depends on the version of the show, are telling the story of Timoon to a young girl. So this is when those storytellers wrap it up, tell us what happened to Timoon, and what the point is of continuing to pass the story along. So it talks about love and forgiveness and hope and why anyone on the planet ever gathers and tells stories. It's like heavenly. I saw the show on Broadway 3 times, and I like the song ends like really quietly on like a sustained note, and like then they would sustain it and there would be the blackout, and every time the blackout came I would take like my moment to like, because the audience would be clapping and like going nuts, to just go and
like, the dry heat.
The show is incredible. I love this, and I am cautiously excited for it to come to Disney Plus. Moving along to Peter Pan the Musical. So Peter Pan the Musical opened on Broadway in 1954, starring Mary Martin as Peter Pan, and has lived on in several televised versions from the 50s and 60s. It was revived on Broadway several times, so those listening may remember the 1990, 1991, and 1998 revivals, all starring Kathy Rigby. I did see that. I saw the 1998 one on Broadway. So in 2014, the musical was broadcast on NBC as one of their live musicals starring Allison Williams as Peter. The music is largely written by Moose Charlap with additional music by Julie Stein and lyrics by Carolyn Lee with additional lyrics by Betty Comden and Adolph Green. So big Broadway folks. So I've chosen 4 songs from this. So Never Neverland. In this song, Peter tells the darling children where he lives, and it's just enchanting. Let's listen to the original Mary Martin version for this one because also the quality of the recording and the 1950s nostalgic sound along with it, it's very comforting and it will transport you as Mary Martin sings about Neverland being a place where dreams are born and time is never planned. Just, And then once Peter teaches the darling children to think of wonderful thoughts and take flight, Peter sings, I'm flying. I like this almost as much as You Can Fly from the Disney version.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's really good. And I'll pick the Kathy Rigby version for this one. I just remember it so clearly from my childhood. And it brings out a more joyful side of Peter that we don't always get. When Peter in this version sings I've Got a Crow, which is also a great song, we get the cocky side of Peter, and this is just the more innocent, joyful, I'm in flight Peter, which I love. I've also put I Won't Grow Up on this playlist because it's the anthem of Peter and the Lost Boys in this version, and it's just really good. And then my last selection is a song called Only Pretend. So this song is featured in the 2014 NBC broadcast, sung beautifully by Taylor Louderman. Not only is this a sweet, wistful, beautiful song, but Wendy really needs this one. We need this moment from her where we understand how confused she is by the signals that she thinks she's getting from Peter, so that we understand how much of a different place she's in and why staying in Neverland for good would never, ever be an option for her. It's like a beautiful little gem of a song. And in the live version, Taylor Louderman is just in a little rowboat and Peter is rowing and she's just looking at him and singing the song and just like wondering, what do you feel about me? It's really lovely. We're on to the last major part of this playlist, the last major musical. And that's friggin' Shrek the Musical, people.
Yeah, baby.
Shrek! So Shrek opened on Broadway in 2008, of course, based on the 2001 DreamWorks film. The music is by Janine Tesori, who just won the Tony for Best Score for Kimberly Akimbo, with book and lyrics by David Lindsay-Abaire. I mean, what a team.
Well, David Lindsay-Abaire did Kimberly Akimbo.
Right. Oh, right.
There's both of them. Yeah.
Shrek to Kimberly Akimbo. I love that.
Yeah, baby.
This cast recording is full of really wonderful numbers. It was hard to choose just a few. So Shrek pretty closely follows the plot of the animated film. So if you know that, you can follow along here. My top choice is Who I'd Be.
Yeah.
This song is straight up phenomenal. It's a perfect addition to this playlist as it involves Shrek reflecting on the way he would choose to be a fairy tale hero rather than the ogre that he is if he was given the chance. Brian Darcy James is giving the most phenomenal, emotional vocals, and this really fills in the vulnerable moments I always feel like I crave more of from the character of Shrek. This is the show's Act 1 closer, and the way that Donkey and Fiona join in at the end totally gives you chills. I really can't say enough good things about this song. It's just such a good song for actors. And I was lucky enough to see Brian Darcy James play this role on Broadway. And he was perfect. Like, he was the perfect Shrek. He was wonderful. I would also recommend listening to the overture into Big Bright Beautiful World. I'm including this here because listening to this will definitely add a poignancy to Who I'd Be, as Big Bright Beautiful World becomes Shrek's theme after the way that his parents paint the world to him in this number at the beginning of the show. And then he references it again in Who I'd Be and in other times in the show. This song gives us great backstory on Shrek, and although it's impossible to beat the movie's all-star opening, I think Big Bright Beautiful World hits the right tone, and it's a good substitute. Then I have chosen Freak Flag. So in the musical, the fairy tale creatures from the swamp really get their moment. Pinocchio and Gingy are particularly phenomenal. And this is their power anthem. As funny as it is, it's really an empowering bop about embracing the things that make you strange and special. I've also chosen I Think I've Got You Beat.
Yeah, I knew
so,
that was coming.
a love duet between Shrek and Fiona. It could never be anything but this. It ends in a farting contest.
Yep.
Somehow this song manages to be hilarious and also full of emotional development as we start with Shrek and Fiona arguing about who had it worse growing up and leading to them forming this deeper connection. I love Sutton Foster as Fiona. I think the reason I haven't included I Know It's Today and Morning Person on this playlist is 'cause
I'm waiting for I Know
I
It's
know.
Today. That's my song, baby.
I know. I've heard them too many times. Whether it's just like every girl
I
uses these
know
two
it's
songs for their auditions,
today.
and I just can't listen to them anymore. So then my last choice was This Is Our Story. It's the happy ending to the musical, and it kind of ties a little bit of all these songs back together again, and it's really touching. And so I won't go into detail on these, but this is going to be more for your enjoyment when you hit play on this playlist. I have included a bunch of pieces of scores for you as well. So we're not going to talk too deeply about them. I'll just read them off for you so you know that they're going to be in there. So we have 2 tracks from the Drew Barrymore Ever After, another Cinderella retelling. So we have First Kiss and Happily Ever After in there. We have Storybook Love from The Princess Bride. We have 2 tracks from Snow White and the Huntsman, Snow White and the Coronation. We will have some pieces from Swan Lake because I'm in a little bit of Swan Lake mood right now. We'll have that. We'll have some pieces from Sleeping Beauty by Tchaikovsky. So these are all the ballets, and the Cinderella Ballet by Prokofiev. And for fun, I will throw a couple of fairy tale inspired pop songs in there for you as well, including Lost Boy, Today Was a Fairy Tale by Sarah Bareilles, and Thumbelina by Lizzie Hilliard, just for your enjoyment. So,
wow.
Press shuffle on this one. I think it'll be fun. I've made it super long. I usually go shorter with these, but I've made it super long so this can take you through like a whole afternoon and you can enjoy.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it for us for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, please remember to hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast so all of our episodes download to your device and you don't miss out on anything. And then this is the moment. This is that time. This is when you're going to hit 5 stars and leave a written review so that other people can find the podcast. We're seeing search results, all that good stuff. We read everything that you say. And truly, if you want a way to help this podcast continue to keep going and continue to grow, leaving a review, making a recommendation is the one single best thing that you can do. So thank you so, so much for taking the few seconds it takes to just tap in a few words and let us know what you think.
And please follow us on social media. That's also a big help to us. So as I mentioned earlier, we are now on Threads. So if you're over there, follow us. We'd love to see you. It's a good place so far. So we are still Poor Unfortunate Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. We're at Unfortunate Pod on Twitter, but Twitter's so over now. So forget that. We've been having some great conversations from our last episode about people's undying love for Anastasia and the Swan Princess. So would love to hear your thoughts on Connor's movies and from my songs and musicals. So please drop us a comment or a DM. Like Connor said, we read every single thing that you say, including Emily, who told me to go to Swan Lake. And if you want even more of the podcast in your life, please join our private Facebook group, the Poor Unfortunate Fam. So that's a private Facebook group. We're there. A bunch of listeners are there. We're about at 100 people right now. We talk about the episodes. We discuss Disney news. We connect over some of these non-Disney things that we all happen to love too, which I think is so much fun. And it's just a great way for Connor and I to get to know a little bit better who's listening, what you want to hear more of, and to just put some faces to names. And it just makes everything feel so much more personal, and we love it. So we would love to meet you there as well. So please join.
We've also got some merch available for you. Go to poorunfortunatepodcast.com/shops to see all of the things that we've got in the Poor Unfortunate shop. T-shirts, hats, all the things for the weather because it's hot as crap outside. So get a good t-shirt we got going on. And if you have any ideas for merch or want to collaborate with artwork, reach out to us, poorunfortunatepodcast@gmail.com, or you can just use the contact form on the website. And as I always say, it does take us a little bit of money to keep the podcast up and running and coming to you. We do have a PayPal account that's linked in our episode description and in the bios on all of our social media accounts. Truly, anything that you have to spare goes a long way for us. It could be $1, it could be $5, it could be $10, more than that. One-time donation, monthly donation, it all just goes right back into the podcast. It helps us keep it free and ad-free for the most part as well. So thank you very much for considering that. And to all of our monthly donors, thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you.
Without you, this would not be possible. All right. Well, we're 75% there. We're almost to the end of our non-Disney cycle. This has been very fun. So we will be back with a wild card to close out our non-Disney cycle. And until then, Beluga Savruga. Accidentally in love.
I'm a believer.
On the steps of the pyramids.